Highlights of the action-packed Toyota Cape Dealer Rally is proudly presented by Motorsport South Africa and its partners Toyota, Volkswagen, Ford, Sasol and Dunlop. It's springtime in the Western Cape. Time to take on the Toyota Cape Dealer Rally. The dice in the hotly contested South African Rally Championship now reaches the final stretch. After visits to KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga, Gauteng and the Eastern Cape, the battlefield shifts to the Western Cape for round 6 of the 2014 championship fight. This is the Toyota Cape Dealer Rally. Day 1 of the event was designed around the thousands of enthusiastic rally fans, with most of the day's action taking place at the famous Killarney racetrack, as well as at rally headquarters based at the Imperial Toyota dealership near the Cape Gate shopping complex. But the outcome will undoubtedly be decided on the rally's traditional fast and flowing gravel stages on the wheat and canola farms near the west coast towns of Malmesbury and Maritzburg. With only 3 rounds remaining, it's advantaged Leroy Poulter with 105 points, courtesy of 3 victories so far. But behind the Toyota driver, it's getting uncomfortably close, with fewer than 8 points separating second place man Hergen Fecken, defending champion Mark Ronier, and the Volkswagen duo of Hans Weiss and Henk Lategan. Leroy Poulter has a comfortable lead at the top of the championship points table, so perhaps he's starting to think about his overall driver's title.
It's still early days, we got, rallying, anything can happen, but it is looking good for us.
Poulter's Toyota teammate Hergen Fecken is currently second, but not by much.
Yeah, look, it's good. Leroy is in front, so it's 1 and 2 for Toyota. That's all good.
Besides Poulter, defending champion Mark Ronier is the only other person to have won rallies in 2014. But what will it take to clinch a 3rd consecutive title?
It's going to take a lot of work, to be honest. Leroy's done a tremendous job this year and they're putting a lot of effort. But it's not to say that we can't do it.
Volkswagen's Hans Weiss slid down the order courtesy of this accident on the previous round, so the Dutchman will want to make up for it here in the Cape.
It was a pity from the last rally, but okay, we have a new one again.
And Volkswagen's young gun Henk Lategan will find the going tough here in Cape Town with a broken hand that will no doubt complicate matters behind the steering wheel.
We did a lot of physio work and really trained hard to try and get ready for this race.
But perhaps all eyes would have been on Japie van Niekerk, who recorded a career-best second-place finish on the previous round. But instead, the new Africa Developments Fiesta will be piloted by good friend and former champion Enzo Kuhn.
Japie had a business commitment and he said he'll gladly hand me the keys of his car.
And don't be surprised to see the names of Volkswagen's Gugu Zulu, Toyota's Dakar legend Janelle de Villiers, and S2000 challenge leader Wilro Dippenaar near the top of the leaderboard come the end of the event. To make matters even worse, the winter's final cold front had moved in over the Western Cape, leaving the spectators to seek cover at the very wet Imperial Toyota Cape Gate start of the event. Hergen Fecken in his Toyota is the first to tackle the tricky stages, followed by the Polo of Henk Lategan. Defending champion Mark Ronier starts in 3rd ahead of his rival Leroy Poulter, Hans Weiss and Enzo Kuhn. Janelle de Villiers will have a good view from 7th on the road, just ahead of Gugu Zulu. And this is stage 1, 12 kilometres of very wet, muddy and therefore extremely slippery gravel roads in the hills just outside Durbanville.
Normally it would be a disadvantage to be the first car on the road, but in conditions this wet, it doesn't really matter. So Hergen Fecken and Kevin Swan opened their Toyota Cape Dealer Rally account with a time of 7 minutes and 46 seconds. 2 minutes later, it's the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo of Henk Latergan and Barry White, who ventures into stage 1. Their time at the finish, 7 minutes and 45 seconds.
All stage was quite clean until the end here. Misjudged the jump a little bit.
This will be an indication of the true pace as defending champions Mark Cronje and Robin Houghton set off in the number 24 Ford Racing Fiesta. Cronje does not normally need an invitation to get going, and it shows as he crossed the flying finish in a time of 7 minutes and 18 seconds. That's 17 seconds faster. And this is the man that has taken the fight to Cronje in 2014. Championship points leaders Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee in the Castrol Toyota Yaris. It's going to be close. 17 minutes and 19 seconds. Less than a second slower. And the fight was on.
We had a spin as well, so it was interesting.
Here goes Hans Weiss and Bjorn de Gant in the second of the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polos. But the damage to the front of his car suggests that the Dutchman has run into early trouble, confirmed by a slow time of 8 minutes and 7 seconds. But no problems for former champion Enzo Kien and co-driver Gerard Snyman, who recorded a time of 7 minutes and 30 seconds behind the wheel of the borrowed New Africa Developments Ford Fiesta.
I like the mud. I'm not complaining.
This is effectively a home rally for Imperial Toyota's Dakar legend Janelle de Villiers and his co-driver Greg Godrich. And a time of 7 minutes and 26 seconds was pretty much on the pace.
It was important to finish the stage. It's very, very slippery there. It can catch you out for sure.
And the fifth fastest of all for Gugu Zulu and Carl Pesket to get their Toyota Cape Dealer Rally underway. A decent start for the third of the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo drivers.
Tricky, but it's all good.
And what disappointment for Volro Dippenaar and Kes Naidu, who crossed the flying finish of stage 1, but were forced to retire the PZN panel beaters Toyota with mechanical niggles.
The oven misfire, and I also can't use the clutch. The clutch is solid hard.
From a very wet and muddy stage 1 on the outskirts of Durbanville, it was off to the dry and familiar tarmac of the popular Killarney racing circuit for both stages 2 and 3 in front of a large and appreciative crowd who've come out to witness the action.
It's the Castrol Toyota Yaris of Hergen Vekken and Carolyn Swan who broke the silence first as they came flying down the main straight. Start intervals remain at 2 minutes, as with any other rally, but since each crew will have to complete a number of laps, it didn't take long for the rally to turn into a full-blown motor race, much to the delight of the loyal rally fans. Soon we had Castrol Toyotas, Ford Racing Fiestas, and Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polos all fighting to occupy the same piece of tarmac with their individual quests to beat each other, as well as the stopwatch. But although it resembled a circuit race, the thing that mattered most is what the stopwatch said. And when the rubber settled, it was the Ford Racing Fiesta of Mark Cronje and Robin Houghton who stopped the clock on 7 minutes and 27 seconds, a full 9 seconds faster than their arch rivals Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee in the Castrol Toyota Yaris. Enzo Kien and Gerard Snyman were further 4 seconds back and third fastest in the New Africa Developments Ford Fiesta, but less than a single second faster than the bruised Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo of Hans Weiss and Bjorn de Gant. In fact, all 3 Volkswagens completed the stage within 2 seconds of each other, with Henk Latergan hot on Weiss's heels, with Gugu Zulu in turn not far behind. Janelle de Villiers had won many touring car races and titles on Killarney's tarmac over the years, but the Cape Townian was somewhat off the pace and could only record the 8th fastest time. It was much of the same for stage 3, an exact repeat of the 16 kilometers that made up stage 2 just an hour before. And again, it was former circuit racing and world go-kart champion Mark Cronje who extended his lead over another former circuit racing and world go-kart champion Leroy Poulter. Cronje was in a class of his own around Killarney, but behind Poulter it was fairly close, with Enzo Kien doing enough to occupy a third overall, just a few seconds ahead of the Imperial Toyota Yaris of Janelle de Villiers. Gugu Zulu put in a sterling performance as leading Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo driver to move into 5th overall.
After nearly 50 kilometres of flat-out racing on both muddy gravel and tarmac, It was Marc Cronier who took command of the Toyota Cape Dealer Rally with a 20-second advantage over Leroy Poulter. Enzo Kuhn enjoyed himself behind the wheel of the borrowed Ford Fiesta to lie in third, closely followed by Janil de Villiers and Gugu Zulu. The relatively short first day of the Toyota Cape Dealer Rally would come to an end with the running of stages 4 and 5. These two stages were again identical to each other and run in darkness on the streets around the Imperial Toyota dealership at the Cape Gate Shopping Centre.
Together, these two stages only added around 2 kilometers of rally distance to the schedule. But 2 kilometers lined with sidewalks, pavements and even thousands of people can sometimes play a huge role in the overall outcome, or even worse, lead to an early retirement. Fortunately, most of the drivers kept their heads to steer clear of trouble, and this time it was Leroy Poulter who turned the tables by winning both stages in his Castrol Toyota Yaris. But times were so close that he only managed to steal a few seconds from rally leader Marc Cronier and his Ford, who would not have been concerned about a second here or a second there.
After the break, Toyota Cape Dealer Rally action continues when the crews head north to the fast and furious farm roads of the West Coast for day 2. Will Cronier stay on top? Will Poulter be able to close the gap? Or will someone else steal the show?
By Tiger Wheel and Tire.
It's day 2 of the Toyota Cape Dealer Rally. Winter finally had its last say as the skies cleared to reveal the beautiful but still very wet gravel roads on the wheat and canola farms of the West Coast. And it's Marc Cronier who'll go into battle as the overall leader. Leroy Poulter is 18 seconds behind, with a similar gap between the Toyota driver and the Ford of Enzo Kuhn. Janil de Villiers will start the day in 4th, around 15 seconds ahead of Gugu Zulu in his Volkswagen. After day 1, Marc Cronier is exactly where he wanted to be.
Well, that's exactly where I want to be, but there's nothing about comfortable. I mean, obviously Leroy is a strong competitor, and Toyota are coming back at us quite hard.
And time for Leroy Poulter to decide on his strategy for the day.
Well, we can see what we can do. Obviously Mark's got to maybe open the road, so it might be a little bit more difficult.
And all smiles inside the Ford of former rally champion Enzo Kuhn, who made a guest appearance here in the Cape.
Enjoying it. It's a good car. Nice to be back in the sport.
And this is now what they'll be facing. The Swartland at its most beautiful, but that's from outside the cars, as the view from behind the steering wheel paints a different picture. The roads may be beautiful to look at, but they are notoriously fast, also wet and potential car breakers. What's even more is that all the crews will have to tackle stages 6, 7 and 8, all on the trot, which means in excess of 60 kilometres of gravel racing without the chance to service the cars in between.
Marc Cronier and Robin Houghton were the first ones to venture into the Swartland. As overnight leaders, it will be their task to explore the grip levels first, but Cronier is a double champion for a reason. His time on the 27 kilometers of stage 6, 13 minutes and 11 seconds.
180, very narrow, left 4 tightens, a very long left 5 open.
Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee would like nothing more than to reward sponsors Toyota with a victory on their own event, but at the same time, he also had the overall championship standings to consider. All of that seemed irrelevant, as his time on stage 6 was a full 13 seconds slower than the time set by Cronier.
We just got some issues with the car we need to sort out.
Behind the leading duo, all hell was about to break loose. Enzo Kuhn and Gerard Snyman started the day in 3rd position, but the new Africa Developments Ford Fiesta was somewhat slow through the long stage 6, allowing the Imperial Toyota Yaris of Janil de Villiers and Greg Godrich to sneak past them on the overall standings, and that despite driving with a broken shock absorber.
It's very disappointing, I don't know when our luck's going to change.
Gugu Zulu and Carl Peskin were determined to record their best result of the season. But the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo did not enjoy a few hard landings over a series of jumps, forcing the popular Zulu to the sideline.
Pretty much just hit a jump and landed too hard, but on the jump itself, broke the suspension. That was that.
Zulu's pain was Hergen Fekken's gain. The Castle Toyota Yaris of Fekken and co-driver Callan Swan set a good time to jump from 7th on the overall standings all the way up into 4th. The number 24 Ford Racing Fiesta of Mark Rooney and Robin Houghton headed off into stages 7 and 8 with a bit between their teeth. But that was a very scary moment for Cronje, who so nearly crashed into a pole. Clearly, he had a problem. It was a flat tyre which forced the champions to stop and change the wheel, but losing nearly 3 minutes and the lead of the rally in the process. And it was about to get even worse for the defending champion, who picked up another punctured tyre on stage 8, destroying all hopes he might have had of staging one of his trademark comebacks.
Our rally has just gone away from us, unfortunately. This is the luck we've had this year, but unfortunately that's how it works.
With Cronje's name tumbling down the leaderboard, Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee inherited the lead of the Toyota Cape Dealer Rally, something that would have done his championship aspirations no harm at all. But the man and woman on the move were none other than Poulter's teammates Hergen Fekken and Callan Swan. The former double champion set the fastest times on both stages 7 and 8 to climb to 2nd position on the overall standings. Toyota team bosses had reason to smile as the third Toyota Yaris, the Imperial Toyota version driven by Janelle de Villiers and Greg Godrich, was also in the mix, making a clean sweep of the podium a very real possibility. But de Villiers was still fighting with a broken shock absorber, causing him to pick up a punctured tyre on stage 8.
I haven't got front shock absorber, so it's very difficult to keep the car in a straight line.
With all the top drivers seemingly on a roller coaster ride, Enzo Keen and Gerard Snyman simply kept their heads down to steer the borrowed New Africa Developments Ford Fiesta clear of any trouble and straight back into 3rd position overall. The Volkswagen Sassel Racing team would have had high hopes of raining on Toyota's parade like they have done so many times before, but it wasn't to be. Hugo Zulu was already a spectator and Henk Latergan was struggling to give it 100% with his broken hand. To make matters worse, the youngster is driving a left-hand drive polo, leaving the duties of steering and changing gears to his broken right hand. Unfortunately for the talented young man, his suffering came to an abrupt end when he hit a pole on stage 8, which also turned him and co-driver Barry White into spectators for the rest of the day. All Volkswagen's hopes were now pinned on the broad shoulders of Dutch driver Hans Weiss and his Belgian co-driver Bjorn de Gant behind the wheel of the remaining Sassel Racing Polo. Weiss had a lot of catching up to do after his misfortunes on the previous day, but managed to crawl his way up into 5th position overall. Behind Weiss, young Namibian driver Thilo Himmel and his South African co-driver Armand de Tooy were doing well in an older specification Volkswagen Polo as they survived the demanding conditions to occupy 6th at this crucial part of the event.
Two flat tyres in 2 successive stages erased Mark Cronje's name from the leaderboard. It's looking good for rally sponsors Toyota, with Leroy Poulter and Hergen Fekken topping the standings ahead of Enzo Kuhn and the third Toyota driven by Janelle de Villiers, while the Volkswagen of Hans Weiss rounds off the top 5. Finally, a very well-deserved break for both man and machine at the Dunlop Service Park, and a chance for defending champion Mark Cronje to convey his views with regards to Lady Luck.
We got 2 punctures and quite random, some of them, but that's unfortunately how rally worked.
Hergen Fekken was the man on the move as he climbed no fewer than 5 positions and straight into 2nd place overall.
We had a good run this morning, made up quite a few positions, and now I need to stay there and I'm going to keep pushing.
And perhaps it was too early to start thinking about victory for Toyota on their own event, but Leroy Poulter was the new leader.
Again, like I said, it's tricky, and now with the cars that have been through, the mud might get even worse, so let's wait and see.
With time and distance running out, it was time to make a move. And this is where it would need to happen. on the more than 50 kilometres of stages 9 and 10, repeats of stages 6 and 8 earlier in the day.
With all four wheels still inflated, Marc Renier added another stage win to his tally, but he was now too far back to have a say in the overall proceedings. Rally leader Leroy Poulter had a more than 40-second advantage over the second-placed man, and to make it even better, the current second spot belonged to his Castrol Toyota teammate Hergen Vekken. One would think that 40 seconds should have been more than enough, but you never know in the sport of rallying. And then, unbelievably, Poulter's Toyota Yaris broke a shock absorber. The rally leader saw a full 30 seconds of his lead evaporate after stage 9 as he struggled to keep the Yaris on the road. But shortly after, it was Vekken's turn to run into trouble. His Yaris landed a little offline after a jump, causing not one, but two punctures, and he dropped from second overall down to fourth.
We tried really hard.
That was the only invitation that Janelle de Villiers needed. The former Dakar Rally winner sniffed an opportunity and made his move to climb up into second place overall, now just 5 seconds behind the leading Toyota of Leroy Poulter. With all the Toyotas of Poulter, Vekken and de Villiers coming and going, Enzo Keen was enjoying the seesaw show around him and simply did what he does best. He kept the new Africa Developments Ford clean and out of trouble to maintain his third position overall, while a stage win on stage 10 for Hans Weiss consolidated his current 5th place.
Leroy Poulter still held the lead, but not by much.
Thought we'll take it easy on the second rounds now, and halfway through the stage just out of service, we broke a left front damper.
And what a seesaw ride for Hergen Vekken.
Fortunately, there was a big rock in the middle of the road, and I came fully committed over a brow, and I just couldn't miss it.
Janelle de Villiers was a man on the move.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's all we can do. We have to push to the maximum and, see where we end up.
And in a friend's borrowed car, Enzo Kuhn found himself in a very tight battle.
It's really nice to have a rally come to an end within literally seconds, and we're all fighting for it.
The last few stages of a rally can be stressful for all competitors as they jockey for final positions. Piet Bacchus and Sean Visser were well on their way to claim the S2000 Challenge victory in their accident guru Toyota, but were forced to throw in the towel. The same fate befell Namibian Thilo Himmel, who was as high as 6th at one stage, but he too was forced to retire. The high rate of attrition allowed the Super 1600 Fight for front-wheel drive machines to enter the overall top 10, with Chris Kurzer and Marie van der Walt claiming a first podium place finish in their Electra-Thread Toyota Etios. Local lads Paul Franken and Henry Kern reached the end in a fine second position in the tough Super 16 fight behind the wheel of their Manitou Group Volkswagen Polo. But this class, which contains all the stars of the future, was once again all about the Yato Tools Toyota Etios of Guy Bottrell and co-driver Simon Basie-Lyle. It was Bottrell's 5th win in 6 events. But what about the big question and the small matter of who will be victorious on the prestigious Toyota Cape Dealer Rally? A 12-kilometre stage on the outskirts of Durbanville, as well as a short 2-kilometre blast around the picturesque Merendal wine estate, would provide all the answers.
2 punches and nearly 2 minutes lost on 2 successive stages. The mountain too high for even the likes of defending champions Marc Renier and Robin Houghton, who had to settle for 6th overall. And a difficult rally for Dutchman Hans Weiss and Belgian co-driver Bjorn de Gant, who fought hard throughout, and the Volkswagen Sassel Racing Polo survived to record a 5th place finish. And just a short while ago, Castrol Toyota's Hergen Vekken and Carolyn Swan still had a chance of overall victory before 2 punctures robbed them of any victory aspirations. And apparently, if your friend is kind enough to loan you his vehicle for the weekend, this is how you are supposed to drive it. Well, according to Enzo Keen and Gerard Snyman, that is. In only his 2nd rally so far this season, the veteran driver and former champion did not put a foot wrong to reach the end in a fine 3rd place overall. But what about the overall victory? It was becoming pretty clear that Toyota will finally manage to break the sponsor's curse with the Yaris on course to win the Toyota Cape Dealer Rally. But which one? the Imperial Toyota version driven by Janelle de Villiers and Greg Godrich, or the Castrol Yaris occupied by Leroy Poulter and Alvin Kutsia. With just 2 stages to go, the gap was 5.6 seconds in Poulter's favour, but it's de Villiers who packs a punch by winning the penultimate stage and closing the gap to a mere 1.9 seconds.
This was the final battleground. Just 2 kilometres of Mirandol wine estate that stood between the 2 Toyota drivers and the top step of the podium.
You can't really win a rally in just a few meters, but you sure can lose it, as mistakes can be severely punished. So it was Poulter who made the mistake, leaving de Villiers to drive off and claim his first ever South African rally victory.
And it's official! Janelle de Villiers emerged victorious by 8.1 seconds over Leroy Poulter. Enzo Kuhn claimed another podium finish in a rally ahead of Hergen Fecken, while Hans Weiss rounded off the top 5. And what a beautiful setting to enjoy the sweet taste of Mirandol victory champagne. And another podium finish for veteran driver Enzo Kuhn.
No, it was brilliant. It's totally unexpected. I mean, Gerard did a great job. We made no mistakes, and I think that's where the secret lies.
Leroy Poulter came to within metres of winning, but had to settle for second.
At the end it was close, and we knew it was, I think, 1.5 seconds in the last stage. And I maybe just tried a bit hard and I lost it.
And Janelle de Villiers adds a national rally victory to his long list of motorsport achievements.
It's a great feeling. It's been a while since I've won something on home soil, and to do it here in Cape Town, home ground, in front of the home fans is all the more special.
Join us next week for the highlights of the Super 1600 battle. After the yearly visit to the Western Cape, the rally circus moves far north to the city of Polokwane and surrounding areas for the penultimate round of the 2014 South African Rally Championship. And who knows, Polokwane might just see the crowning of a new champion. See you on the 17th and 18th of October. Highlights from the Toyota Cape Dealer Rally Round 6 of the 2014 South African Rally Championship was presented by Toyota, Volkswagen, Ford, Sasol and Dunlop.